Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share yet another update on my experience with the Sony Alpha A7. Now, this is one of two full-frame mirrorless interchangeable lens cameras that Sony released not too long ago. The A7 on its own is priced at $1699.99. In the kit version, you're looking at $1999.99. This is not the kit lens, by the way. We'll be getting to this lens in a moment. The higher resolution A7R that moves you from the 24 megapixel full-frame sensor in this body that gets bumped up to 36 megapixels. You also have no low-pass filter. So the 7R is all about getting the absolute most resolution you can possibly attain in the smallest form factor, because they do share the exact same footprint. The body is identical. The button layout is identical. The build quality a little bit different. There's more metallic build involved in the higher-end A7R. And considering the A7R body alone is $22.99, quite frankly, it should be better made. Now, I'm not saying you'll really notice that, and I've covered this in my, updates, reviews, and basically all of my coverage of the A7, because it is a groundbreaking camera, as is the A7R. It's far from perfect, but it has reset the standard for what we've come to expect from a mirrorless system, let alone one in this form factor, because now we've got full frame capability at a bargain price. Yes, even though the prices I mentioned just now are all fairly high, when you benchmark them against full frame competition, Sony has practically given away this technology in a sense. But moving away from pricing, let's talk about what this weather-sealed, Wi-Fi, NFC-capable little full-frame beast can do with lenses, because that's what anyone buying into this new system is concerned about, what glass is available. And one big disadvantage for the Alpha 7 and 7R out of the gate was very limited glass. Literally, the only lens you could pick up out of the gate was the kit lens, which was only included with the 7, not the 7R, because Sony knows if you're buying the 7R, you probably don't want kit glass. And then you had the option of going with the Zeiss 55mm f1.8 or the 35mm f2.8. Outside of that, there's no other glass on the market right now that's native FE. FE standing for full frame E-mount, because this camera is built around the E-mount that the NEX has lived on for all these years, as has the VG Handycam line as well. So a lot of people have shied away from the A7, A7R, because they just look at it as something where, well, I have to wait for the next generation because of glass. And what I'm here to talk about today specifically is this E-mount lens you're looking at here, which is the 10 to 18 millimeter constant f4, designed for, of course, the NEX lineup of cameras, which have now become just alpha cameras, a simplification of Sony's digital imaging brand. And when you use these APS-C lenses on a full frame body like this, you are going to get a cropped image. But one of the surprising things with the wide angle 10 to 18 is that when you're in between the range of roughly, I would say, somewhere around 12 to 14 all the way up to 18, you literally can actually leverage full frame resolution when using the A7R. Now, I haven't seen that here with the A7, but reports are abound and plentiful about the utilization of this native E-mount lens, again, not optimized for full frame, on the A7R. So as soon as I get my A7R, that will be something that I will be updating all of you on. I have used it here with the A7, and it performs, it works, but obviously, like most E-mount lenses on the A7, you find yourself wishing you had a full frame equivalent. The big downside, though, to getting that full frame equivalent is the size itself. It's like when you look at the A7 right now with this lens, it looks like a perfect match, and that's because, quite frankly, the E-mount really was built around the NEX system. But, what can I tell you? We are going to require larger lenses, at least in most cases, in order to leverage the full frame sensor housed inside these incredible brand new cameras. But luckily for those of you that own an A7R, you have an inexpensive wide-angle option right now available to you that not only will yield some great results, but also retains the incredible form factor of the A7 and A7R. So I'm looking forward to eventually getting this on my A7R when I pick it up. And that's really what today's video was about. For those of you curious, can an NEX native E-mount older lens really perform on the A7 or A7R. Here on the A7, you're going to go through the cropping factor, but on the A7R, from what I've seen, full frame support is surprisingly there. So I'm looking forward to giving you some further impressions of that, but overall, still loving this camera. It really is the epitome of Sony's digital imaging and delivering the best quality in the smallest package you could ever imagine. Every thumb dial, finger dial, programmable button is there to control shutter, ISO, aperture, exposure compensation, everything you could possibly need. And you don't really, after you use the camera for a while, which is how I feel about it now, you're not searching for anything. You know where everything is. Ergonomics are incredible. And now the promise of being able to use some E-mount lenses that I already own, like the 10 to 18, which I love on the APS-C form factor sensor, now migrating over to something like the A7R, just really exciting. And even though there aren't a lot of native lenses, of course, Sony believed that most users picking up these cameras would have other lenses that they wanted to manually shoot on, because that's what the NEX brand has always been about. Beyond E-mount native lenses, you've also had the flexibility, as I've mentioned through all of my coverage of NEX cameras and now Alpha cameras, to put pretty much any lens on there under the sun. Granted, you picked up the appropriate adapter. You've got peaking, focus peaking, so that manual focus is incredibly easy. And the only other hurdle you really have to compensate for is stabilization when you get into using lenses that are legacy and from different manufacturers. So a lot to like here. Another thing I want to point out, you do have optical steady shot with this f4 constant lens. So I'm expecting some good things both on the still and video side once I get this on my A7R. But a lot to like here with the 10 to 18 E-mount native lens, even when working now in a full frame environment. So Sony definitely showing some signs of recognizing that some form of backwards compatibility had to be there, not just so they could brag about it, but so that it was an actual practical and useful tool. And that's what the 10 to 18 seems to be, at least when it's on the higher resolution A7R. Any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.